The mining colony on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for 3 years. Lauren Hayes worked as a scientist in the research facility, studying the unique mineral deposits that made the planet valuable to Earth. She loved her job. Every morning, she would walk through the corridors and check on the mining operations. Her brother Kevin was the commander of the colony's defense force, and he always made sure everyone stayed safe. On the day everything changed, Lauren was in the laboratory analyzing rock samples when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen. She heard Kevin's voice on the communication system, urgent and sharp. "All personnel, this is Commander Hayes. We are under attack. Move to evacuation zones immediately." Lauren grabbed her research files and ran toward the evacuation center. Through the windows, she could see massive ships descending from the sky. They were unlike anything she had ever seen before. The ships were dark and shaped like weapons. People were running everywhere, pushing and shouting. The ground shook with explosions. The Zillions had arrived. Lauren knew about the Zillions from the news reports. They were an alien species that conquered worlds. They were strong and dangerous. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They took what they wanted, and they destroyed anyone who resisted. She reached the evacuation area where crowds of people were waiting. Kevin was there, directing soldiers and checking evacuation shuttles. When he saw Lauren, his face showed both relief and worry. He hugged her tightly. "Get on the shuttle now," he said. "It is leaving in 2 minutes." Lauren nodded and moved toward the shuttle door. But then something happened that she would never forget. A massive explosion hit the evacuation center. The force threw her backward onto the ground. When she looked up, the shuttle was damaged. People were screaming. Kevin was trying to help the injured, but there was too much chaos. Before she could run toward the shuttle again, armored figures appeared through the smoke. They were tall and covered in hard, thick skin that looked like armor. They had multiple eyes and moved with a scary, smooth motion. They were Zillions. Lauren tried to run, but her leg hurt from the explosion. A Zillion soldier grabbed her arm with a strong grip. She struggled, but the creature was too powerful. She watched as Kevin looked at her from across the chamber. She saw the helplessness in his eyes. She saw him try to move toward her, but other soldiers were holding him back. The shuttle doors began to close. Kevin reached out his hand, but it was too late. The shuttle lifted off the ground and disappeared into the sky. Lauren was pulled away from the evacuation center. She tried to fight back, but the Zillions did not even notice her resistance. They carried her through corridors filled with smoke and into a waiting transport ship. Many other people were already there. She saw humans from the colony. She also saw other aliens that the Zillions had captured from other worlds. The transport ship rose into the atmosphere and docked with a much larger vessel. This massive warship floated in space above the planet. It was enormous, stretching for what looked like several kilometers. The ship was dark gray and covered with weapons and strange technology that Lauren did not understand. The captured prisoners were moved through metal corridors into a detention area deep inside the ship. They were separated by species and placed in individual cells. Lauren's cell was small, with metal walls and a single light that never turned off. She could not lie down or stand up completely. She could only sit or kneel. Hours passed, though she was not certain how many. There were no windows and no way to measure time. A Zillion brought her some food. It was a gray paste in a container. It tasted like nothing. She tried to eat it anyway because she knew she would need strength. Then the cell door opened and a massive Zillion entered. He was larger than the others, and he moved with confidence and power. This was Vex Khan, commander of the warship. His multiple eyes looked at Lauren with curiosity, and something that might have been amusement. "You are human," he said. His voice was deep and made a low sound that seemed to come from inside his chest. His English was perfect, though his accent was strange. "I have never examined a human before. Your species is known to be weak and short-lived. You will be useful for our research." Lauren forced herself to look up at him. She wanted to show that she was not completely broken by fear. "What do you want from us?" she asked. Her voice was shaking, but she tried to sound brave. Vex Khan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We want to understand you. Your species has expanded through space, but we do not know how such weak creatures have survived. Perhaps there is something valuable inside your biology. Perhaps we can unlock this secret and create stronger warriors." He turned and left the cell. The door closed behind him. That night, Lauren sat in the darkness and thought about Kevin. She wondered if he had made it onto another shuttle. She wondered if Earth knew what happened. She wondered if anyone would ever rescue her. But Lauren had always been a survivor. Even as a child, she had faced difficult situations and found ways to overcome them. Her mind was sharp and creative. She started thinking about how to get information about the Zillions. She studied the guards when they brought food. She listened to their conversations. She learned words in their language. She realized something important. The Zillions were not showing her kindness because they cared. They showed her things because she was being observed. She began to act in specific ways. When they performed their experiments, she showed them exactly what they wanted to see. She was clever about it. She learned their patterns. She learned their thinking. Days turned into weeks. Lauren discovered that the Zillions were very logical but not very creative. They followed rules strictly. They could not think in unexpected ways. This was their weakness, even though they did not know it. She also made friends with other prisoners. There was an alien doctor named Kess who worked in the medical section. Kess was small and intelligent. He taught Lauren more about the ship and the Zillion culture. She taught him about Earth and about human ability to survive in difficult situations. Together, they began to form a plan. Lauren did not know exactly what that plan would be yet, but she knew one thing for certain. She was not going to be a victim. The Zillions had made a mistake when they captured her. They did not understand that humans had something much more powerful than strength. They had hope. They had the ability to never give up, no matter how dark things seemed. Lauren looked at the metal walls of her cell and smiled. She was still a prisoner, but she was also something else. She was becoming a weapon, and the Zillions had no idea what they had created. Commander Kevin Hayes sat in a dark room on Earth, staring at classified documents on his computer screen. Around him were other military officials and government leaders. The room was cold and quiet. Everyone was waiting to hear if the rescue mission would be possible. Kevin had been searching for his sister for 3 weeks. After the Zillion attack, he survived on one of the evacuation shuttles. He came back to Earth and immediately went to the Defense Council with everything he knew about Lauren. He told them about her capture. He told them that she was alive. A scientist named Dr. Monica Park stood up and presented information that shocked everyone in the room. She had been studying human genetics for many years. She explained that Lauren came from a special family line. This line had survived many difficult situations throughout history. Their ancestors had faced extreme hardship, extreme cold, extreme hunger, and extreme danger. This had changed their genetics over many generations. Lauren Hayes has enhanced neuroplasticity, Dr. Park said, pointing to charts and data on the screen. This means her brain can adapt and change more easily than most humans. She also has superior emotional regulation. These are rare traits. They are valuable. If the Zillions discover what makes her special, they could try to use this information for their own purposes. Kevin listened carefully. He was proud of his sister. He was also terrified for her. If the Zillions understood how special she was, they would keep her alive. But they would also hurt her trying to understand her abilities. An older government official named Director Hayes spoke up. He was not related to Kevin or Lauren, but he had the final say on military decisions. The question is not whether she is special, he said. The question is whether we can reach her before the Zillions complete their experiments. A military captain named Sarah Johnson presented a plan. Earth sensors had detected the Zillion warship's location. It was in a region of space far from any Zillion bases. A rescue mission was possible, but it would take time to prepare. The fastest ships would need 2 weeks to reach the location. 2 weeks may be too late, Kevin said. If they are running experiments on her now, her condition could become critical. Dr. Park shook her head. Actually, Commander, Lauren's genetic traits may help her survive the experiments. Her enhanced adaptability could mean her body recovers faster from trauma. Her emotional regulation could help her stay calm under stress. She may be more resistant to the experiments than other species. Kevin felt a small amount of hope, but it was mixed with worry. Even if Lauren could survive the experiments, the psychological damage would be severe. He knew his sister was strong, but no human could go through this kind of treatment without being changed forever. The Defense Council made their decision. They would send a rescue mission, but it would take 2 weeks to prepare. In the meantime, they needed Lauren to stay alive. They needed her to gather intelligence about the Zillion ship. This was a dangerous request, but it was their only chance to succeed. A special communication device was prepared. It was smaller than a grain of sand. Scientists worked day and night to make it small enough to hide inside a medical implant. They sent this device through space attached to a comet that was heading toward the Zillion warships region. They calculated that the comet would pass close to the ship. If they were lucky, the Zillions might bring it on board. Meanwhile, on the Zillion warship, Lauren was being taken to the experimental laboratory. The room was large and cold and filled with strange machines that she did not recognize. Scientists with multiple arms and multiple eyes worked on different experiments. There were other prisoners in the room, strapped to tables or inside chambers. A Zillion named Vextal, who was the head of the science division, explained to Lauren what they would do. His voice was calm and matter-of-fact, as if he was discussing something ordinary and not terrible. "We will expose you to extreme conditions," he said. "We will test your body's limits. We will measure your responses to temperature, pressure, radiation, and psychological stress. Your species must have some survival mechanism that we do not understand. We will discover it." They placed Lauren in a chamber that began to get extremely cold. Ice formed on the walls. Her body shivered violently. She wanted to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm. She thought about her childhood. She remembered playing in the snow. She thought about warmth and home. Her body adapted. Her core temperature dropped slightly, and her metabolism slowed. She stopped shivering so much. The Zillions measured everything and made notes. Then they exposed her to extreme heat. The chamber became a furnace. Her skin burned. Sweat poured down her body. She felt like she was melting inside. But again, her mind stayed strong. She thought about water and ice and cool places. Her mind helped her body survive. The Zillions were surprised by her results. Other species had failed these tests much more quickly. They did not understand why this human female was surviving so long. Lauren also used this time to observe the laboratory. She noted where the equipment was. She noted the security cameras and where the guards stood. She memorized patterns and routines. Kes had helped her study the Zillion ship's layout, and she was putting that knowledge to good use. One day, a comet passed very close to the Zillion warship. The Zillions captured some samples from it. Hidden inside one sample was the microscopic communication device from Earth. It was placed in the medical section, where Kes worked. He found it, and very carefully installed it into a medical implant that he gave to Lauren. She hid it beneath her skin where no one could find it. That night, Lauren received a message from her brother. She heard his voice in her mind, transmitted through the tiny device. "Lauren, if you can hear this, you are not alone. Earth knows you are alive. We are coming for you. We need you to stay alive and gather information about the Zillion ship. Can you do this?" Lauren's eyes filled with tears. She was not forgotten. She was not abandoned. People were coming for her. And now she had a mission. She had a purpose beyond just surviving. She thought about Kes and the other prisoners. She thought about how the Zillions were cruel and powerful, but also predictable and limited in their thinking. An idea began to form in her mind. A dangerous idea. A brilliant idea. The Zillions thought they were experimenting on Lauren. But they were wrong. Lauren was experimenting on them. She was learning their weaknesses. She was studying their minds and their ship. Every test they gave her made her stronger mentally and physically. Every day she learned more. She sent a message back to Kevin through the tiny device. "I am alive. I am learning. I will be ready. Trust me." In the laboratory, the Zillions reviewed Lauren's test results again and again. They showed results that seemed impossible. The human female was not breaking down. She was getting stronger. Her adaptation was unprecedented. Vexcon decided something different had to be done. He decided that Lauren should receive special training. She should be taken to the combat center. She should be trained as a warrior. Perhaps this would reveal the secret of human survival. It was a decision that would change everything. It was a decision that would lead to the beginning of the end for the Zillion Empire, though no one knew this yet. Lauren stood in the combat training center on the Zillion warship. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and wide-open spaces. The floor was made of a hard material that did not break under pressure. Weapons lined the walls. There were swords and guns and devices that she did not recognize. Vexcon entered the room with several other Zillion soldiers. He looked at Lauren with interest. Over the past weeks, he had become fascinated by her. She had survived every experiment. She had adapted to every challenge. She had not broken like other prisoners. This was unusual and remarkable. "You are stronger than we expected," VexCon said to her. "Now we will see if you can fight. I will train you myself. If you become a great warrior, it will prove that we can create super soldiers from your weak species. If you fail, it will prove that humans have no value." Lauren knew this was a dangerous opportunity. She had to succeed at training, but not too much. She had to show she was learning while also gathering information about the ship's defense systems and VexCon's habits. She had to be careful and clever. The first day of training was brutal. VexCon pushed her harder than any human trainer ever could. He was strong and fast. His movements were precise and calculated. But Lauren noticed something important. He always moved the same way. He always made the same choices. He was predictable. VexCon attacked Lauren with a training sword. The blade was blunt, but it was still heavy and hurt when it hit her. She tried to defend herself, but he was faster and stronger. He knocked her down several times. She fell hard onto the floor. Her body ached with pain, but each time she fell, she got back up. And each time she got up, she watched VexCon more carefully. She saw the pattern in his attacks. She saw where he was vulnerable. She saw how his thinking was organized and structured. After 3 hours of training, VexCon stopped. He seemed satisfied with what he had seen. "You have the ability to learn," he said. "Tomorrow we will train again." That night, Lauren sent a message to Kevin through the communication device. "I am in combat training now. I can access the central areas of the ship. The defense systems are located in Section 7. The main weapons control is in Section 9. VexCon trains every morning at the same time. His patterns are predictable. I am learning everything." Kevin's response came quickly. "We are getting close. 2 more weeks, stay safe. Keep gathering information. Do not take unnecessary risks." Over the next several weeks, Lauren's training continued. She became stronger and faster. She learned how to fight like a Zillion, but more importantly, she learned how to think like they did. She learned that Zillions did not use tricks or deception. They did not understand surprise tactics. They did not have the ability to imagine something that was different from their normal thinking. This was their weakness. Lauren began to develop strategies based on this weakness. She started to teach Kes and the other prisoners how to act and think in ways that would confuse the Zillions. She showed them how humans had advantages that the Zillions did not understand. Humans could be creative. Humans could cooperate with emotion. Humans could imagine possibilities that did not exist yet. During this time, Lauren also helped other prisoners escape from their cells. She worked with Kes to change medical records and move prisoners to different sections of the ship. She made it look like the records were always that way. The Zillions did not notice because their thinking was too rigid. They did not question what they saw in the system. If the computer said something was true, they believed it was true even if it was not. One day, VexCon announced something important. There would be a combat trial in front of the entire Zillion High Command. Lauren would fight VexCon in a real battle. It would prove whether humans could become true warriors or whether they were still weak and worthless. Lauren knew this was her most important moment. She had to win the fight, but she also had to make the Zillions believe in her completely. If she won, she would gain their trust and respect. If she lost, she might be killed or sent back to the detention center. The day of the trial came. The Zillion High Command sat in a large viewing area above the combat center. There were dozens of them, all watching with their multiple eyes. The fight would be broadcast throughout the entire ship so that all Zillions could see it. Lauren and VexCon stood facing each other in the center of the arena. They both carried weapons. The Zillion who was running the trial announced the rules. This was real combat. Blood could be spilled. Death was possible. The trial began and VexCon attacked immediately with his usual patterns. He came forward with his sword. He moved left. He moved right. He attacked from high. He attacked from low. He moved exactly as Lauren had predicted, but this time Lauren did something different. Instead of defending or attacking normally, she used human creativity. She used a move that VexCon had never seen before because he had never imagined that such a move was possible. She rolled under his attack and came up behind him. She used his own momentum against him. She moved in ways that surprised him. The battle lasted for nearly an hour. Lauren and VexCon fought hard. But Lauren was always one step ahead because she understood his thinking. She knew what he would do before he did it. She could predict his movements. She could imagine his next attack. Finally, Lauren had Vex Khan on the ground. She stood over him with her sword pointed at his throat. The Zillion High Command was silent. No one had ever beaten Vex Khan in combat. No one had ever come close. But then Lauren did something unexpected. She lowered her sword. She did not kill Vex Khan. Instead, she offered her hand to help him stand up. She showed him mercy. The Zillion High Command did not understand. In their culture, showing mercy to a defeated enemy was weakness. It was shameful. It meant you should have won but did not have the courage to finish the job. But Vex Khan understood something different when he looked into Lauren's eyes. He saw that she had the power to kill him but chose not to. She had made a decision. This was not weakness. This was something else, something that the Zillions had never experienced before, something that they did not have a word for in their language: mercy, compassion, choice. Vex Khan stood up and looked at Lauren for a long time. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He bowed. It was a Zillion gesture of respect and honor. From that day forward, Lauren's reputation changed. She was no longer just a test subject or a slave. She was a warrior. She was someone to be respected. The other Zillions treated her differently. They gave her more freedom. They let her move through the ship without constant guards. And with this freedom, Lauren prepared for the next phase of her plan. She sent a final message to Kevin with all the information she had gathered. She included the exact locations of the shield generators. She included the coordinates of the power core. She included the security codes that she had discovered. She included everything Earth would need to defeat the Zillion warship. "I'm ready," she told her brother. "Come now. I will help you from the inside. Together we will end this. Together we will win." Lauren looked out of a window at the vast darkness of space. She thought about Earth. She thought about home. She thought about how she had gone from being a prisoner to being something powerful. She had become humanity's secret weapon, and the Zillions had no idea that they had created their own doom. The Earth Defense Fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly where the calculations said they would be. There were 12 ships in total. The largest was a battleship named the Guardian. The smallest were fighter jets that could move faster than anything the Zillions had ever encountered. Commander Kevin Hayes sat in the command center of the Guardian. He was looking at the massive Zillion warship on the screen in front of him. It was enormous. It was covered with weapons. It looked impossible to defeat. But he had the intelligence that Lauren had sent. He had the codes. He had the locations of every important system. He had hope. "Begin the attack," Kevin said into the communication system. The Earthships fired all at once. Weapons lit up the darkness of space. The attack was precise and calculated. It targeted exactly what Lauren had told them to target. The shield generators exploded in bright flashes of light. The secondary power systems were hit and went down. Explosions rippled across the surface of the Zillion warship. The Zillions were caught completely off guard. Their rigid thinking and their predictable strategies meant they could not adapt to something this unexpected. Their command structure moved slowly. Their decisions took too long. By the time they understood what was happening, half of their weapons were already destroyed. Kevin watched the battle on the screen. The Earth forces were winning, but only barely. The Zillion warship was still enormously powerful. Its remaining weapons fired back at the Earthships. One of the Earthships, a smaller cruiser, was hit and started to lose power. Its engines went dark, but the attack was working. The shields were failing. The main defensive systems were offline. Now it was time for the next phase of the plan. Now it was time for Lauren to do her part from inside the ship. Lauren was hiding in a maintenance section deep inside the Zillion warship. She could feel the explosions. The whole ship shook. Alarms were screaming everywhere. Red emergency lights flashed on and off. She could hear the Zillions running through the corridors trying to figure out what was happening. She waited for exactly the right moment. She had memorized the timing. She had studied the patterns. She knew that in exactly 3 minutes the main power would transfer to the backup systems. This was the moment when all the security doors would unlock for a brief second. This was her chance. Lauren ran through the corridors. She moved quickly and quietly. She had a device in her hand that Kes had helped her build. It was a tool that could open locked doors from the outside. She had learned how Zillion technology worked by watching the engineers. She had copied their methods. She reached the detention center where Kes and the other prisoners were being held. The security door was locked, but the moment came and the lock opened automatically. Lauren burst through the door. "Come with me," she told Kes and the others. "We have to move now." Kes, a small alien doctor with gray skin and intelligent eyes, did not hesitate. He had been waiting for this moment. He knew what Lauren's plan was. The other prisoners, 3 aliens from different worlds, followed without asking questions. They ran through the corridors together. Behind them, they could hear zillion soldiers shouting. Weapons were firing. The ship was in chaos. But Lauren knew the layout of the ship better than anyone except the zillions themselves. She took routes that avoided the main corridors. She moved through maintenance tunnels and service areas. At one point, a group of zillion soldiers blocked their path. They raised their weapons and prepared to fire. But Lauren did something brilliant. She opened a nearby panel that controlled the artificial gravity in that section. She reversed it. Suddenly, everything started floating upward. The zillions lost their balance. Their weapons stopped working in the changed gravity. Lauren and the prisoners ran past them before the soldiers could recover. They made their way to the main computer core. This was the heart of the ship. From here, Lauren could access every system. She sat down at a terminal and began typing. She did not use the Zillion language. She used the secret codes that Kes had taught her, codes that would let her bypass all the security. "What are you doing?" Kes asked her. "Shutting down their defense network," Lauren said, "making it easier for Earth forces to win." Her fingers moved across the keyboard. She entered codes and sequences. System after system went offline. The shields went down. The communication system stopped working. The engine power reduced to minimum levels. The Zillion warship was becoming helpless. She also did something else. She opened the detention center doors throughout the entire ship. All the prisoners, every species that the Zillions had ever captured, began to escape from their cells. They started moving through the corridors, trying to reach the evacuation areas or the places where Earth forces might be boarding the ship. The Zillion command structure was completely confused now. They did not understand what was happening. Their systems were failing. Their soldiers were receiving contradictory orders. Their rigid thinking could not adapt to this kind of chaos. That was when VexCon found Lauren in the computer core. His massive form filled the doorway. His multiple eyes looked at her with a mixture of emotions. For the first time, he seemed to understand the truth. Lauren had not been their prisoner. She had been their enemy all along. "You have betrayed us," VexCon said. "No," Lauren replied. "I survived. You taught me to become a warrior, and now I am using what you taught me. This is what it means to be human. We adapt, we overcome. We do what we must to survive and protect others." VexCon stepped toward her. He was angry. He was confused. He was afraid, though he did not want to admit it. His hand moved to his weapon. But before he could draw it, Lauren moved. She used the fighting techniques that VexCon himself had taught her. She was faster and smarter than he expected. She disarmed him. She took his weapon. She pointed it at him. "I could kill you," Lauren said, "but I will not. You're not my enemy. Your rigid thinking is your enemy. Your inability to understand creativity and emotion is your enemy. Your weakness is not my species. Your weakness is yourself." VexCon stood there, defeated not by strength but by understanding. He realized that he had been outthought and outwitted by someone he considered weak. At that moment, the Zillion warship received heavy damage. The Earth forces had boarded the ship. Soldiers from Earth, wearing combat armor and carrying weapons, moved through the corridors toward the command center. They were destroying Zillion resistance as they went. Kevin Hayes was leading the boarding team. He moved through the ship toward the location where he knew Lauren would be. His heart was pounding. His hands were steady. He had one mission: find his sister, get her home safely. When he reached the computer core, he saw Lauren. She was standing there, alive and strong. She looked different. She looked like a warrior. She looked like someone who had survived something impossible. Kevin ran to her and hugged her tightly. For a moment, both of them forgot about the battle around them. They forgot about the war. They forgot about everything except that they had found each other again. "Come on," Kevin said. "We have to go. The ship is being taken down. We need to evacuate." They ran back through the corridors toward the shuttle bay. Behind them came Kes and the other prisoners. Behind them came the escaped captives from other worlds. They were all running toward freedom. As they reached the shuttle bay, the massive Zillion warship was falling apart. The combination of Earth's external attack and Lauren's internal sabotage had crippled it completely. Its engines were shutting down. Its hull was breaking apart in places. It was dying. The Earth shuttles lifted off from the warship just as it began its final collapse. Lauren looked back at the ship one last time. She thought about everything she had survived. She thought about how a single human, using creativity and intelligence, had brought down one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. The shuttle moved away from the warship and headed back toward the Earth Defense Fleet. Lauren sat next to her brother Kevin. She was exhausted. She was injured, but she was alive, and she was going home. Behind the shuttle, the Zillion warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light and energy. The most feared ship in the galaxy was gone, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the destruction of the Zillion warship. Lauren sat in a large government building on Earth. The room was filled with important people. Military leaders, scientists, government officials. They were all there to listen to her speak. Lauren was no longer just a scientist or a prisoner. She was a hero. She was a symbol of human strength and survival. People around the galaxy knew her name now. They knew what she had accomplished. They knew that a single human female had brought down one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. She stood up and began to speak to the assembled group. Her voice was calm and clear. She did not speak like someone who was scared or uncertain. She spoke like someone who had seen terrible things and survived them. The Zillions believed that strength came from physical power and rigid thinking. Lauren said, they believed that the species with the strongest bodies and the most weapons would always win. But they were wrong. They did not understand that humans have something different. We have the ability to adapt. We have the ability to be creative. We have the ability to feel emotion and use that emotion to make us stronger, not weaker. Dr. Monica Park nodded from her seat. She had been studying Lauren's case for months now. She had discovered that Lauren was not unique. Many humans had similar genetic traits. Many humans had the capacity for emotional resilience and adaptation that had helped Lauren survive. The implications are extraordinary, Dr. Park told the group. We thought human strength came from our technology or our military power. But the evidence shows that our greatest strength is psychological and emotional. We can survive things that other species cannot survive. We can imagine solutions that other species cannot imagine. We can hope when other species lose hope. Kevin Hayes smiled when he heard this. He was proud of his sister. He was proud of humanity. He knew that what Lauren had done would change everything for humans in the galaxy. The Earth government made important decisions that day. They created new military programs based on Lauren's knowledge about Zillion weakness. They trained soldiers to think creatively and to adapt to unexpected situations. They taught soldiers about the power of emotion and connection, not just violence and destruction. They also created diplomatic programs. Lauren helped the government understand that humans could be valuable as negotiators and peacemakers. Other species could learn from human understanding and emotion. Humans could help bridge the gap between different alien cultures. Other planets in the galaxy heard about what had happened. Species that had been conquered by the Zillions learned that the Zillions could be defeated. They learned that there was hope. Representatives from a dozen different alien worlds came to Earth to meet with Lauren. They wanted to understand how she had done it. They wanted to learn from her knowledge. Kes, the alien doctor who had helped Lauren escape, became one of her closest advisors. He had decided to stay on Earth instead of returning to his home world. He helped Lauren communicate with other alien species. He helped her explain human thinking and human emotion to beings who had never experienced such things before. Your species has a gift, Kes told Lauren one day. When I first met you in the prison, I did not understand it. I thought you were just a weak human, but I was wrong. You were strong in ways that I had never seen before. You were strong in your mind and in your heart. Lauren worked with the government to establish new alliances with other conquered species. She helped organize a coalition of planets that had been harmed by the Zillions. Together, they planned how to protect themselves and how to prevent the Zillions from attacking anyone else. The remaining Zillion forces were captured and brought to Earth for trial. Vexcon was one of them. He was held in a secure facility where he could be studied and questioned about Zillion culture and strategy. During one interview, Vexcon was asked how he felt about being defeated by a human. His response was honest and surprising. I do not understand it, he said. Your species has less strength than ours. Your species lives shorter lives than ours. Your technology is not as advanced as ours. But you defeated us. How is this possible? Lauren was allowed to speak with Vex Khan one final time before he was taken to his permanent prison. She sat across from him in an interview room. You did not lose because you were weak, Lauren told him. You lost because you could not adapt to something you did not understand. You lost because your thinking was too rigid. You lost because you did not understand that emotion and connection are not weakness. They are strength. Vex Khan stared at her for a long time. I am beginning to understand, he said finally. But I do not know if I can truly comprehend what you are saying. My mind does not work the way yours does. I was built to be a warrior. I was built to follow orders and to destroy enemies. I was not built to understand mercy or creativity. That is why your species will never rule the galaxy, Lauren said. Because you cannot adapt. Because you cannot change. But humanity will rule the galaxy, not through conquest but through understanding and cooperation. Years passed. Lauren became an ambassador for Earth. She traveled to different planets. She met with different species. She taught them about human culture and human values. She helped establish trade agreements and defensive alliances. She also trained new generations of human diplomats and soldiers. She taught them the lessons she had learned in the Zillion prison. She taught them that their greatest strength came not from weapons but from their ability to think differently and to connect with others. Emotionally, Lauren established schools where humans and aliens studied together. In these schools, they learned each other's languages and cultures. They learned to work together despite their differences. They learned that cooperation was more powerful than conquest. The story of Lauren Hayes became famous throughout the galaxy. Stories were told about the human girl who had been captured by the Zillions and had not only survived but had actually defeated the most powerful empire in known space. Children from different worlds grew up hearing about her courage and her intelligence. One day, Lauren stood on the observation deck of a new Earth diplomatic vessel. The ship was called the Hope. It was designed to carry ambassadors and diplomats to different worlds. It was a symbol of Earth's commitment to peace and understanding. Kevin joined his sister on the observation deck. They looked out at the stars together. They thought about everything that had happened since the day the Zillions attacked the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Do you ever regret it? Kevin asked. Being captured? Going through all of that? Lauren thought for a moment before answering. No, she said. I was not captured. I was transformed. I was broken down and rebuilt. I learned things about myself that I never would have learned otherwise. I discovered that I was stronger than I ever imagined. I discovered that humans are capable of things that no one else believed we could do. You saved more than just the prisoners on that ship, Kevin said. You saved humanity's future in the galaxy. You showed everyone that humans are valuable, that we are not weak, that we have gifts that other species do not have. Lauren smiled. We always had those gifts, she said. We just never had the chance to show them. Now the galaxy knows. Now everyone knows that humans are not just another species to be conquered or enslaved. We are partners. We are friends. We are people who can change the galaxy not through violence but through love and understanding and hope. The two siblings stood together in silence, watching the stars. Behind them, the Earth diplomatic vessel moved forward into space. It was heading toward new worlds and new alliances. It was heading toward a future that had been built on Lauren's sacrifice and courage. Far away in a prison facility, Vex Khan sat alone in his cell. He thought about Lauren. He thought about how a single human had taught him more about strength and weakness than all of his military training ever had. He realized that he had been wrong about so many things. He had been wrong about humans. He had been wrong about weakness and strength. He had been wrong about what it meant to be truly powerful. In the galaxy, the Zillion Empire began to crumble. Without their most powerful warship and their commander, without their belief in their own invincibility, they could not maintain their control. One by one, conquered worlds began to reclaim their independence. Alliances that had been forged in fear began to transform into alliances forged in hope. And at the center of this transformation was one human woman who had survived the impossible. Lauren Hayes had gone from being a prisoner to being a legend. But more than that, she had shown the entire galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. She had shown them that the human capacity for emotion, creativity, and love was not a weakness. It was humanity's greatest strength. It was the gift that would allow humanity to lead the galaxy not through conquest, but through understanding and connection and hope. The future belonged to humanity now. And it was a future built on the legacy of one brave human girl who refused to break. 5 years after the fall of the Zillion warship, Lauren Hayes stood in a training facility on Mars. This was the most advanced military academy in the solar system. Young recruits from Earth and other human colonies came here to learn how to be soldiers and diplomats. They came to learn the lessons that Lauren had discovered in her time as a prisoner. Today was a special day. Lauren was going to teach a class about adaptation and survival. The young soldiers sat in a large auditorium. There were men and women from different countries and different backgrounds. They all had one thing in common. They all wanted to protect humanity and help build a better future for the species. Lauren walked to the front of the room. She was now 30 years old. She still looked strong and capable, but her eyes had a depth that came from experience. Her voice was calm and confident when she spoke. "Many of you have heard stories about what happened when I was captured by the Zillions," she began. "You know that I survived. You know that I helped defeat one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. But what you may not understand is why I survived. It was not because I was stronger than the Zillions. It was not because I had better weapons or better technology. I survived because I could think differently." She walked across the stage as she talked. Her movements were smooth and practiced. She had given this talk many times now, but she never made it feel routine or boring. "The Zillions made a mistake," Lauren continued. "They thought that all strength came from physical power. They thought that a warrior was someone who could fight better and hit harder than everyone else. But they did not understand that true strength comes from the mind. It comes from the ability to imagine new solutions. It comes from the ability to understand other people and predict what they might do." A young soldier in the front row raised his hand. His name was Marcus. He was from South Africa. He had been studying Lauren's techniques for months. "Commander Hayes," he asked, "can you give us an example of how you used mental strength against physical strength?" Lauren smiled. She liked when students asked questions. It meant they were thinking. "During my combat training with Vex Khan," Lauren said, "he was always stronger than me. He could hit harder. He could move faster in some ways. But I noticed that he always attacked the same way. His thinking was predictable, so I learned to predict his moves before he made them. I learned to position myself where he did not expect me to be. I defeated him not because I was stronger, but because I understood how he thought." She demonstrated a fighting move on the stage. She moved smoothly and showed how a smaller person could defeat a larger opponent by using intelligence and positioning instead of pure strength. "This is what makes humans special," Lauren told the group. "We can adapt. We can change. We can imagine new possibilities. Other species may be stronger or faster, but they cannot do what we do. They cannot think like we think." After the class ended, several students came to talk with Lauren. They wanted to know more about her experiences. They wanted advice on how to handle difficult situations. Lauren spent time with each of them, answering their questions honestly and thoughtfully. That evening, Lauren received a message from Kes. He was on a mission to another star system, but he wanted to update Lauren on his progress. Kes had become a bridge between humanity and other alien species. He helped translate not just languages, but also cultural understanding and values. "The alliance with the Kelleran people is moving forward," Kes wrote. "They are impressed by human diplomacy and cooperation. They want to join our defensive coalition against any remaining Zillion forces. Your reputation continues to grow, Lauren. You are becoming a symbol of hope for many species." Lauren smiled when she read this message. She had never wanted to be a symbol or a legend. She had just wanted to survive and to help others survive. But she understood that sometimes when you do something important, you become more than just yourself. You become an idea. You become hope for other people. The next day, Lauren traveled to the United Nations building in New York. The leaders of Earth's governments had called an important meeting. There was news about the Zillion situation that needed to be discussed. When Lauren entered the conference room, she saw General Patricia Wong, the head of Earth's military forces. She also saw Director James Cooper, who was in charge of diplomatic relations. They both looked serious. "We have received a message from a Zillion scientist," General Wong explained. "This scientist wants to defect. He wants to provide us with information about Zillion technology and strategy. He says that he has come to believe that Vex Khan was wrong. He says that he has been studying human culture and human values, and he believes that Zillions have much to learn from humans." "Where is this scientist now?" Lauren asked. "He is in a secure location," Director Cooper said, "but he has one condition for sharing his information. He wants to speak with you first. He wants to understand how you survived. He wants to know if there is hope that Zillions can change and become different." Lauren thought about this request carefully. She had spent years trying to help people understand that change was possible. She had spent years believing that even enemies could learn and grow. But she was also careful. She knew that not everyone could be trusted. "I will speak with him," Lauren said, "but with security precautions in place. And I will make my own judgment about whether his intentions are genuine." The next day, Lauren was taken to a secure facility. She sat across from a Zillion scientist named Vex Gore in a room with reinforced walls and security cameras. Vex Gore was smaller than Vex Khan. He had multiple eyes that were more gentle and thoughtful-looking than most Zillions. "Thank you for seeing me," Vex Gore said in carefully spoken English. "I have wanted to meet you for a long time." "Why?" Lauren asked directly. "You are Zillion. Your people have tried to conquer and destroy mine. Why should I trust you?" Vex Gore was quiet for a moment. "Because I made a mistake," he said. "I believed what my leaders told me. I believed that Zillions were superior. I believed that other species were weak and worthless. But I have been studying human culture and human history. I have learned about your capacity for creativity and emotion and connection. I have learned that these are not weaknesses. They are strengths that my people do not have." He paused and looked directly at Lauren with all of his multiple eyes. "I have learned that I was wrong," he continued. "My entire civilization was built on a false belief. We thought that domination through strength was the only way to survive in the galaxy. But we were destroying ourselves. We were losing our chance to grow and to learn. When I heard about what you did, how you defeated our most powerful warship, I finally understood the truth. You did not defeat us through violence. You defeated us through intelligence and understanding. You showed us that there was another way." Lauren studied this alien carefully. She tried to determine if he was being truthful or if this was some kind of trick. But as she looked into his eyes, she believed him. She believed that he had genuinely changed his thinking. "What do you want to do?" Lauren asked. "I want to help create peace," Vex Gore said. "I want to work with Earth and with other species to show the Zillion Empire that there is a better way to exist in the galaxy. I know that many of my people will not listen. I know that some will continue to be warriors and conquerors. But perhaps some can learn. Perhaps some can change. I want to give them that opportunity." Lauren made a decision. She would help Vex Gore. She would let him share his information with Earth's military and diplomatic leaders. She would give him the chance to help create a better future. Over the following months, Vex Gore proved to be a valuable ally. He provided detailed information about Zillion technology and defensive systems. He helped Earth understand how to protect itself against any remaining Zillion aggression. But more importantly, he helped translate Zillion thinking in a way that allowed humans to communicate with other Zillions who might want to change. Slowly, some Zillion ships began to surrender. Some Zillion soldiers began to listen to messages about peace and cooperation. The rigid empire that had seemed so powerful and invincible began to break apart from within. On Earth, people celebrated this progress. They understood that Lauren had been right all along. Change was possible. Understanding was possible. Even enemies could become friends if given the chance to learn and grow. Lauren stood once again on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Hope. She looked out at the stars and thought about how far the galaxy had come in just 5 years. The Zillion Empire was crumbling. New alliances were forming. New friendships were being built between species that had never met before. And at the center of all of this was one human woman who had refused to give up. One human woman who had shown the galaxy that emotion and creativity and hope were not weaknesses. They were the greatest strengths that any species could possess. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges ahead. There would be more conflicts and more difficult decisions to make. But Lauren believed that humanity had a place in that future, not as conquerors, but as healers and teachers and builders of peace. She sent a message to Vexgor on his ship. The message was simple and direct. Thank you for choosing change over destruction. Thank you for believing that a better future was possible. Together,